I first learned about the Revival Center a long time ago, so long ago I don't actually remember. Those are things I asked my wife, but I met Sandy when she came to our youth group meeting, and I was playing keyboard with the band. Scattered Seeds, I think was the name of the band at the time, but we were playing for the youth, just trying to empower the youth and do that. We're a very small church, and she came in and God just worked. It was crazy because she basically said, "Hey, God's got a word for you." And I'm like, "What? For me?" I'm like, "How?" And it was like, she goes, "Do you want it the hard way or do you want it the easy way?" And so I remember that distinctly because I was sitting in the back hiding, and I didn't want to be seen weirdly. And yet I'm in the front of the church, doing worship. And it was God. I mean, I came into worship because of God and where my life was. But I met her and she said, "Hey, God's got a word." And I said, "Well, I've always had it the hard way, so let's do it." And he came up and he slammed me, but he slammed me in such a way that it was love. And it was, how can I be told the things I'm doing wrong, but yet in such love? And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I've known God my whole life, but now to hear him say something to you, it was interesting. So I was like, all right, that's very, very, very fun service. I was there to play, keyboard, but I got talked to and it changed my life. And so I realized at that point that I need to become a better person for Christ. And through all of that, we were, in contact with her through our church, events. She would come and visit. We'd invite her in, and then there came a time where our church pastor died. And when he passed away, we were kind of weirdly lost into a point where we needed to have answers. I always went to the pastor for answers, and apologize, but in the process, we ended up going to where her church was at the time, and we were able to just learn more and more about Christ. And through that process, eventually the Revival Center started, and we decided God was calling us to move to Fresno. So we were in the Bay Area at the time and decided to actually move because of that. And so we became involved by just going to the church in the beginning.
Good. Talk a little about your role and your involvement with the church.
Still doing worship. Surprisingly, I was amazed that God would let me continue to do that with, the past that we have. But God basically said, "I've called you to do worship," and Pastor Sandy was around when that happened. She says, "Well, if God said, then we're gonna have to work this out." So we did a lot of fireside chats, as we called it, nights after worship, of what we did wrong, what we did right, how to work that, and how to understand what the Spirit was doing. And through all of that, I still have continued on and have done worship since a long time, since the beginning of the church. And so I still do that. And then along the way, I'm a technical guru as well of sorts. So I ended up taking over the sound equipment and a lot of the equipment for video, et cetera. So I run that department as well in my spare time. Yeah. So, yeah.
How would you describe the vision or the mission or the heartbeat of the Revival Center?
Wow. It's like empowering the lost. I mean, it says, I remember seeing that on the door every time we walk in. It's like people that come into that place just being able to find Christ and that he's real. So it feels like, to me, that's the vision, right? To help those that are hurting to realize that there's hope, that there's love when they walk into the place and realize that, yeah, worship doesn't go 5 songs, it may go 20, but it may only go 1. It depends on what God is doing, what the Spirit is trying to do for the one person. Where, I've been stuck in a song 20 minutes because somebody has to get this. Are you hearing the words? This is where we need to be, and why? That's what is needed. It's like repetitive, and we'll do whatever that takes so that person can be empowered, so that their lives are changed when they leave there, including us. A lot of times, we're the fat cows coming to the front for food, right? We've been fed at this place, but yet we still come and can find the love of Christ in the same spot. So,
How's the Lord using the ministry to share the gospel? Talk about evangelism.
The gospel for us, like going out onto the street, being able to tell people what God's doing, be able to live a life that's an example without almost having to say anything. I have a lot of customers and vendors that I talk to in my business, and immediately they recognize we're a different type of business. We're not swearing. We never do. All of a sudden they stop swearing when we're around. Various things happen because of being and living what we're preaching, living and doing what Christ has called us to do. So we look more and more like him every day. And I think that evangelism for me has been big because I have done street evangelism. I have gone out and worked with various groups to do that. And our church does that as well as obviously live stream, getting worldwide and being able to expose people to Christ that way. But that's the type of evangelism I feel is the strongest, is when you live what you preach.
Very good. Talk about discipleship. How are you guys making disciples?
Yeah, again, I think it kind of coincides with the evangelism in that, like, as we have young Christians coming up, whether they are young or whether they're, have fallen away and have come back to Christ, when we're there and as an example, as a worship leader, to bring a new guitarist, a youth that wants to learn guitar, and they can come to us and we're approachable. I feel that was always a struggle that I had when I went to church as a kid. Was the worship team was untouchable, the pastor was unreachable. You could stand there and hope that they would look your way. I remember doing that. And to be able to actually just walk down and go and greet people and see people. And when they come into the church, there's no cliques. Like, we're able to, they're like, everybody loves the person coming in and everybody else. Yes, there's age group differences, and so you have tendencies to hang with those, but I can walk into the youth and we have a great time. We can talk, we can do those things. So I think the discipleship comes up from living that which we're preaching.
How can Christians get involved in supporting ministry like this?
Well, when you're supporting a ministry, to me, there's a couple things you can do is act like Christ, right? So you can come in and be part of it, be part of the congregation, do your part, stir up your gifts, work, as I call it, work the front line. I love to go up and just be available. You never know when Christ needs you to pray for somebody, even though you're never skilled enough, right? We're not polished enough. I don't have the right words to say, but he always gives us that. And so when you stir that gift and you're able to start praying for people, now it's like, okay, now you're empowered there. So if you come and do that and work your gifts, even if you leave, as a better person and now you can evangelize, that supports the ministry. I think clearly money always supports the ministry. Like, we do our best there's not a person that comes in without a need that doesn't get overblessed. It's crazy to watch. Money just flows into somebody's hands that, hey, they have a need and I need $500 and God gives them $5,000. It's like to watch that everything that we do is pressed down, pushed, and it's overflowing and able to flow out to others. It's amazing to watch. So I think there's many ways of supporting a ministry. Of course, financial always helps, but we're using that to support others that are in desperate need. But to be able to come in and be able to be fed, stir your gifts, and be able to go out, I think that supports the ministry of Christ.
Amen. Well said. So, Revelations 12:11, Overcomers TV, they overcame the evil one by the blood of the Lamb, the word of their testimony. What does that mean to you?
My personal life has been hard, like everybody. I have learned firsthand to trust God, and that the word of our testimony, what we say and do, is strong. It can be negative, and it comes back negative. It can be positive and comes back positive. And the blood of the Lamb is enough, strictly enough to cover everything. If you see it through the blood, other people, whatever they may do to offend you, if you see it through the blood, it doesn't matter. You can love anybody. You can love other people that are doing harm to you. And you can speak life into somebody by your testimony. So I think my life has shown that without major details. I know a lot of lives are hard, but I've seen God do it time and time again. And there's nobody that can take that from me. I know he's alive. I know he's real. I know his blood is enough. And I know the testimony that comes out of our mouth is powerful and it's important. So I live by that.
Why do you do what you do?
Because I can't do enough for Christ. If he says jump, I'll say how high. My voice is shot right now because, I've been singing so much, for Christ, even when I'm not leading worship. To get up in the front and just be able to worship him through it all. Doesn't matter what's going on. And to be able to do that, that's why I do it. I do it for him, to give him glory somehow in our imperfectness. And I think that's enough.